Hey guys, today we're going to talk about one of my favorite firearms of all time, the Benelli M4. I've had a lot of experience with this firearm. I've shot it a lot, even before owning one, and now I own one. So I've had this one for quite a while now. I've shot it at the range plenty of times. My favorite thing about this firearm is that it's a 12 gauge that is semi-auto, and when you put it up to your shoulder and fire it a bunch, even if you don't necessarily have the best grip on it compared to like how you might be taught with a pump action shotgun to have the proper grip, some people do the push pull method, but there's a lot of ways you can hold a shotgun to minimize that recoil into your shoulder and prevent your shoulder from getting bruised up. This, even if you don't have the best grip on it, will still be light enough that it's not going to tear up your shoulder. So Benelli M4 is really good. The main draw to the Benelli M4 is that it's got what's called the Argos system in it. And the Argos system is the cycling system that cycles your shells from your tube to the loading gate to your chamber. And it's so good that it has passed the US Marines and Army tests to be around 50,000 round lifespan, loading pretty much every shell imaginable that you could put into this, including birdshot, buckshot, slugs, different size shells. It does everything. So it's like the do-all semi-automatic shotgun. And this is night and day, especially in the past, to other semi-auto shotguns, because other semi-auto shotguns were not very reliable. The kind of the story that you used to get from people when you talked about what shotgun should I buy is that you should get a pump action shotgun because semi-auto shotguns will jam up on you. Benelli changed the game. M4s, the Argos system, this is very reliable. It'll load everything. It's not going to jam up on you. I've had zero malfunctions with this firearm. It's true that I don't shoot shotguns very often, so I probably have less rounds out of this than some of my pistols or some of my AR-10, but it's reliable. Trust me, I've shot a bunch of them prior to owning this. I've never had an issue. Okay, so now that I've talked about kind of like the positives of the Benelli M4, let's talk about one of the big glaring negatives, especially in the United States. So what's the big problem with this firearm? Well, the big problem is that it's an imported firearm made in Italy. Now, this isn't to be anti-Italian or anything like that. Italians make great weapons. I own a Beretta 92 FS. I own a Benelli M4. They make great firearms. The problem with this is that this is an imported firearm. And because it's an imported firearm, specifically an imported shotgun, they require that they put this restrictor onto the magazine tube. So you can see this little flare here. And what that does is it prevents a shell going any further into the tube. So normally you'd be able to fit about 2 more shells into this tube. So this is a 5-round magazine tube with that restrictor plate on. So you'd normally be able to fit 7. We're now stuck with 5. And what does this mean for us? Well, this means that without some tinkering and upgrading, we're not going to be able to have a fully loaded semi-auto shotgun. And what's the point of having a semi-auto shotgun? To get out as many rounds as you can, as fast as you can. And so being restricted like that means that we're losing out on some of that power that you would want compared to something like a pump action that you could buy here in the United States that would have 7 rounds in the tube to begin with. So why can't we just upgrade this? So the reason we can't just upgrade this is because there is a law in the United States called 922R. 922R is essentially restricting your ability to put a US-made part on this, or even just another Turkish or another country of origin's part onto this firearm, because when you do that, they consider it building a new firearm. And so in the United States, it has now been manufactured to be a new firearm, because there's a list of like 13 or 14 items on this that count as a functioning part of the gun. All right. And so when we do something like add something, a magazine tube, for instance, they now say that you've built a new firearm in the United States and you've used a specific number of imported parts. And so, like I said, there's 13 or 14 different parts that they actually consider to be these like restricted portions of the firearm that can't be imported. and you have to have a maximum amount of imported parts, and I believe that's 10. So because there's 13 parts on the firearm, usually you have to replace 3 parts. Now you can kind of get around this because when you get down to the buttstock, you can replace the skeletonized buttstock with the full buttstock that's not skeletonized that also has a pistol grip on it. So that would be considered one US made part instead of 2 parts here. So that gets you down to that 3 number instead of 4. So normally you'd have to replace 4 parts. The buttstock with the pistol grip, if you put that on, you'd be down to 3 parts, okay? I can talk about the list of parts. I probably won't nail them all. I don't have them all memorized, but here we'll go. We'll do back to front. So back, you've got your buttstock, your pistol grip, your trigger housing, your frame, your bolt, your magazine tube, your hand guard, your barrel, and I like those are the ones I can remember. Oh, the follower. So the follower is on there too. So the little piece here that goes into the magazine tube and follows your shells in. I don't know what else there is. There's a list online that you can look up. If you're really interested and you really want me to do a video specifically related to 922R, I can. I'm just trying to let you know that there's some downsides to this. The downside being that if you buy this, or if, let's say you do a Turkish version of this firearm, which is also imported, that Turkish version is going to have the same issue. It's going to have a 5-round restrictor tube, and usually the sites that sell these firearms will sell an extension tube that gives you 7 rounds, and all you would need to do is take the front off, take off the restrictor, put the extension tube on, and screw the thing back on. Now you've got a 7-round gun, but you're breaking 922R, which in some states can be considered a felony. You can see jail time, fines, lose the rights to your firearms. It's not a good thing to do just to get an extra 2 rounds in your shotgun. So another way we can get around this is what's called ghost loading the shotgun. It's a common thing that people do even with 7-round tubes. And I'm going to explain how to do it because I think a lot of people, they'll hear the term, they'll hear what you're actually doing with it, which is just putting an extra round on your loading gate. And then they'll attempt to do it and they won't actually know what's going on. They won't be able to figure out how to actually do it because it's a little complicated. It's not as easy as it looks. And a lot of the videos that show how to do this do it rather rapidly. So here's what's going on. You're going to take your shell, and we're going to load this firearm like normal. So here's your loading gate. And right now we've got the ability to press up on the loading gate and we can put a round in the magazine tube. Okay, so I'm going to put 1 round into the magazine tube. All right, let's pretend I just did that 5 times. So now my magazine tube is loaded with 5 rounds. Okay, when the loading gate is being able to be pressed up like this, what we can do with the bolt is we can pull it back and push it forward as many times as we want, and it won't take a round out of the magazine tube because this button with the red dot here is still down. Okay, so that gives us some options. Now that we know that we can cycle the bolt without loading rounds from the tube into the chamber, we can pull the bolt back like this. We can take 1 shell and we can put it into the chamber. Okay, so now we've got 1 in the chamber, 1 in the tube. Now, how do we get this into the loading gate? Well, you'd think that you can just plop it down into the loading gate and pull the bolt home, but what happens? It tries to cycle it into the chamber. So what do we have to do? We have to follow the bolt home a little bit until the round gets pushed up like this. You saw before that the loading gate was down, but when you pull that bolt forward, it tries to pop it up. So we stick our fingers in, we push it back down, and then we follow the bolt home. Now the bolt is closed onto the chamber, chambered round, and we have 1 round on the loading gate, okay? Now we have 1 round, but we're pretending there's 5. So 5 in the tube, 1 on the loading gate, 1 on the chamber. All right, I don't want to actually shoot this. We have 3 rounds in here now. So what we're going to do is we're going to rack the bolt, which the extractor will remove the round. If I had done it fast, it would have extracted it for me. And we're going to follow the bolt forward. What just happened? The loading gate popped up, loaded our ghost loaded round into the chamber. So what are we going to do? We're going to rack the bolt back, the extractor is going to extract the shell. And then when we pull it forward, the tube is going to extract onto the loading gate and chamber the next round. And I'm going to pull it back again and extract the third round. So these are all 3 of the rounds that we just used, and we're going to check to make sure we're safe. So I'm going to pop this open, and we'll see there's no shell in the chamber, no shell on the loading gate. Pop that forward. Okay, so that's how you would put 7 rounds in a 5-round shotgun. Now this is a little disappointing because, you know, if you had that 7-round tube, you could fit 9 rounds in the shotgun and you could have a ton of fun. But I recommend until you fully understand 922R and you know how to legally do it. I know it seems really ridiculous that we have to ask for our rights in a country that says it guarantees our gun rights to us, but I highly recommend following these rules. Rather than just breaking something that could land you in jail or massive fines or take your gun rights away forever, just for an extra 2 rounds in your shotgun. So figure out how to be 922R compliant. Definitely research the shotgun before you do anything drastic with your Benelli or any of the Turkish-made recreations. And then I'd like to talk a little bit about why I think owning a semi-auto shotgun or even a pump-action shotgun is a really good option for people. So I own pistols, I own rifles, I own a few shotguns. This shotgun in particular is one that I would trust with my life for sure. I haven't modified it at all, and I know this will function forever. But you'll notice I don't have a dot on here for aiming. You don't need to aim very much with these. These do require aiming in the sense that you want to know what you are pointing it at, but just a quick target acquisition with iron sights, and really, you can point aim this thing if you're close enough. You don't need to worry about having a super accurate dot on top to make sure that you're hitting your target. Now, if you have like bad vision and you can't really target acquire with ghost sights easily, it does have the pick rail. You can put a red dot on here. I would recommend getting a red dot with a circle and probably a very large MOA dot, so that, again, if you have bad sight, you're able to see that 6 MOA dot, and the circle will help you obtain that dot a lot faster. But if you don't have bad vision, this is going to work just fine with the irons. Like I said, you can point shoot it for most things. They don't have the mythical spread that you'll see in video games, but they do have buckshot at about 20 yards will be, you know, a good larger than a grapefruit sized hole. And then birdshot at 20 yards is going to be like 1.5 to 2 feet of spread. And when you get out to ridiculous far ranges, they're not quite as efficient because not only is the spread now too far, but it's barely hitting its target and it's lost a lot of its power for the distance that it's going. When you get out to those range, gravity is going to start affecting it. So it starts being low hits that are spread out, and penetration power is going to be this crazy, I guess, differential compared to some of your closer shots. Again, video games are kind of a myth. This is not a close range weapon. This can definitely shoot out to range, especially if you're using buckshot or slugs. But compared to something like an AR-15 or a .308 rifle, it just isn't going to have the range that those are capable of, in at least the way that you would want it to. Okay, so I think that I've covered a lot about like the things that I think are great about shotguns. Some of the features specifically on this shotgun that I like are the skeletonized stock. It absorbs a lot of recoil. This grip is entirely rubber, so you could, in wet, or say you got injured and you got some blood on your hands, this grip is going to be perfectly good in wet conditions. And all of the parts are functional and work just great. So I highly recommend it. I recommend looking into the Beretta 1301, the Mossberg 940 Pro. If you are into pump shotguns, I have a 590 Mossberg, and I think the 590 is also great. But get yourself a 12 gauge shotgun or a 20 gauge if you can't handle the 12 gauge recoil. and go out and have some fun with it. So if you have any questions that I haven't answered in this video, drop a comment. I will respond. I try to respond to most of the comments in my comment section. And I also, if you have a video idea for me, I don't have a huge budget to go out and buy a bunch of things, so please don't have things like go out and buy a 50 BMG rifle. But if you have a video idea for me that you think that I could cover, I'd be more than glad to shoot a video on it and talk about it, and we can discuss those kind of things in the comment section on that video. So thanks for watching, guys.